emotion, let me say. So let me welcome Anna with us and Felix. So a brief presentation about you guys, and then we will hop into the agenda. I know I'm mixing a little bit the agenda, but yeah, we can.
Happy to jump in. So very nice to meet you, everyone. So my name is Anna. I'm the co-founder and chief operating officer at Incivio. Yeah, I discovered gamification has already been part of during my whole life, and I will tell you more about it during the presentation. But I believe it's very powerful when it's rightly used, and I'm happy to share some of my thoughts about it. And this is also trying to connect it how we apply it at Incivio and what is actually driving our activities at Incivio with the gamification aspect related to it. By background, I'm an economist, so also connecting the dots with the behavioral and neuroscience aspects of how we humans function. And I think there's a great overlap with this topic today. Looking forward to discussing it with you. Felix, I hand it over to you.
Yes, hello guys, nice to meet you all. My name is Felix, I'm the CTO of Incivio. So the tech industry for the last 20 years. When I was young, I was a really powerful gamer, so I was always gaming. That's sticking in my mind until today. So every time that I can, in the products that I usually develop, I try to include some gamification of them. Really, this is an intellectual and emotional thing. So everyone likes games, everyone plays games since we are kids. That type of mimic that's to your brain. So although when we start to be an adult and enter on the professional life, we stop doing games on a daily basis. But back then in our brain, we still have those connectors. They are just waiting for being triggered. So when we are able to trigger them, the same emotional effect of winning a game appears. And this is what gamification in the professional world is about. Not doing games, but to trigger these little connectors in our brain to a new level, so to us to be able to achieve new results. So that's the thing. Okay, so let's try to dig deeper into this
and that's today. Yeah, and that's a thing among the things that I've discovered with you guys by preparing this webinar. Gamification is not a game, in fact. There are a lot of things that are the basics to make a good system of gamification, because there is the GAME, but it's not at all. Yeah, we will discover it later. So what we will see together, we will kick things off with a presentation on gamification frameworks and key dimensions with Anna. Then we will hear from Felix and Anna also some real-world gamification use cases, real-world, and will be surprised. And finally, we will hop into the Q&A session, and this time we will key dimensions with Anna. Really. We will dedicate like minimum 15 minutes, and right to. That's right.
Let's see how chatty I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, without further ado, let me leave the floor to Anna to give us more insights about this framework.
Perfect. Let me share my screen, and maybe while I do so, I just would like to see a bit where we stand with the audience in terms of gaming, etc. So I will publish a poll while I share my screen. So first one is over here. Are you a gamer? Yes or no? And share my screen. Share. Perfect. So, okay, the majority are gamers. Okay, very good to know. So this is raising the bar. And actually going to the next question I have. So more than 70% are gamers. Good. And then next question is how knowledgeable are you? in that space.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, it's always shy to say you're an expert or the least, right? So often you go into the middle ground, which makes sense, and that's also good for me to know, so that I know at what stage level I should be speaking about this topic. Okay, more than 70% are at an intermediate level. Perfect. Thank you very much. Good. So let me jump into my presentation. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Good. So I expect that we might need about 20 minutes, not more, maybe a bit less. And actually, I would like to speak about a book that I read, which is about the topic of gamification specifically, written by Yu-kai Chou. Actually, this was a gift from my brother. When I started in Civio 1 year ago, I was sharing my vision and my passion about the topic, and he gave this to me. So this is actually how I started reading the book and try to apply also multiple use cases at Incivio specifically. And as I believe it's a very easy to understand theory, I believe this brings a lot of insights to all of us, especially at work, right? You can implement gamification in multiple ways, which we will also discuss later during this webinar. And then I will also try to connect a bit the dot how you can consider this really at work and in different use cases from a professional perspective. Yes, first, when we, as Felix and Decker mentioned, gamification is necessarily game, right? It's one application of it. So first, when I was like a few years ago thinking about gamification, that was my imagination, my brother with his PlayStation playing, right? Which is clearly not me. I mean, I played a bit as a child. I played like PlayStation 2 back then, or the Wii. But this is not it. It's the inspiration of it. And actually, it started with games, right? This is how the whole concept came. And then the gamification in the end is about how can you apply this to non-game related activities. So to understand really what gamification is leveraging the same drives, but outside of games. Because we understood that games can be addictive, games you can spend all night playing, right? And so in the end, there is something that is really driving how we function behind these drives. And let's apply them beyond games, right? To also make this beneficial for other industries or other activities. So usually before jumping into things, I love to start with definitions because I think it's important we're all on the same page what we are talking about here. So really, gamification is the process of adding game or game-like elements to something such as a task so that you can encourage participation. Okay, so if you have ideas of what are game-like elements, feel free to add them to the chat so I can see a bit also what you have in mind when you speak about game-like elements. That would be very interesting to see. And I will walk you through some of these now down the road with some different frameworks that I believe are very insightful. Good. So going into the next steps, I believe it's also very important to remember where does it all start, right? And I think it really starts with our brains. And actually, I was introduced to that topic when I was studying at university, behavioral economics. So I was studying economics, and one class was called behavioral economics. And I loved it because it was multidisciplinary. And I think the power of things in life are when you bring multiple disciplines together. And it's actually bringing behavior, so like psychology, with economics in that case, and neuroscience. So when you understand each one of them and bring them together, this is where you can really have an impact. And in the end, it's all about our emotions, our ways to be motivated, and this all back to our brain. And in behavioral economics, we were looking at, I'm triggering an emotion for you, and then I want to see which part of your brain is lighting up, right? Or which one is being incentivized. Then you can use it in many use cases, marketing, economics, whatever. But basically, it's all back to how is your brain functioning and how can you trigger these parts based on what emotions, okay? And this is why I would like to dive now into multiple concepts that are very interesting. It's the left and the right brain concept, the white and the black hat, and then ultimately the analysis framework, which is putting this all into perspective as well. So left and right brain, it's actually not scientific like the left side of your brain and the right side. It's quite a common term nowadays in that space. And what does it really mean? Well, the left brain is related to extrinsic, so external motivation. It's basically that things that are derived from a goal, a purpose, or reward. But you need these to be motivated. It means that the actual activity is not so motivating, but through some different external drivers, you are still motivated to do these. One example is going to work, right? You might not necessarily love to go to work, but you're going because you have different external motivations to do so. You want a salary, you want a status, you want to learn. So different external drivers that are incentivizing you to still do an activity that you might not necessarily love. Or for example, I get up at 6 a.m. to do sports. It's not because I love it, to wake up, be tired, and do an activity, but I'm doing it because I have an external goal that I want to achieve. Okay, so these are the extrinsic motivators that are pushing you to take specific actions. That's the left-hand side. Then on the other side, to balance, you have the intrinsic motivation. So what is really internal to you and driving you to take actions based on your internal motivations, and therefore being the deepest one and the most sustainable ones. Because even if you don't have these external dimensions, that you lose them, you will completely directly stop these activities. This is something that is intrinsic in you, and therefore you will keep doing it independent of what is going out there. And sometimes you might even be ready to pay for it to do that activity. For example, hanging out with friends, right? Nobody's paying you, hopefully, to do so. You're even doing it by yourself, doing an effort to hang out with your friends because you love it, right? And that is just one example. So these are the intrinsic things, or being creative. Like people, I know Felix during the whole weekend, creating a new product, right? And that is at the detriment of other things, not hanging out with family, etc. But because it's intrinsically so exciting that you still do it. And that is actually very powerful. Yet, it's sometimes not enough to build a fully exhaustive type of activity. Therefore, this balance between left and right is very powerful. Good. Let me go. If there are any questions, Deka, please let me know. I don't see the questions section. Okay.
Yes, of course. And for our audience, there is the part of the question I forgot to tell you in the bottom right, where you can write questions, and then we will take them over. Yeah.
Yes. So please comment, ask questions either now or later in the Q&A. Good. Then going to the other dimension, which is called the white and the black hat. This is a bit like angel and demon, right? The white, the good, the black, the bad somehow. But again, we humans are not like unidimensional. We need multiple elements to be excited, right? And that's the same logic also from that perspective. So white hat is everything that is motivating you with like making you feel powerful, fulfilled, and satisfied. So very good feelings, right? I'm very happy to do it, and I'm very feeling empowered to be able to do this, and therefore I'm feeling good. The drawback is it doesn't necessarily give you a sense of urgency. I'll give you an example. But before, so going to the black hat, so the black side, the darker side, which is a part of all of us. It's somehow you need this feeling of addiction, being a bit anxious, obsessed, to be really like in an urgency of doing something, right? It can have a bad taste, but if you balance it rightly, it's a very powerful feeling because it can make you do something now. An example is, for example, you have the mission or the good resolution. I want to get out of the house, and I want to change the world, whatever it is, right? You can do it for work or whatever. I'm going to change the world. It's gonna be an amazing day. Cool. I'm going to do it because it makes me feel powerful, fulfilled, etc. But first, I want to finish that Netflix show because it's really cool. Let me have first a good breakfast as well, do some yoga, and then I will change the world. Okay, that's nice. But you have some reasons to delay that action. While if you add some kind of negative feeling behind it, it's not necessarily good, but it can put you to do something more faster, right? Like if you don't do it now, I have a gun at your at your head. If you don't do it now, I might trigger the gun, right? Or I might basically harm you in any kind of way if you don't take the action now. So this means if that external trigger disappears, you might directly stop doing it. However, the urgency is there. And I'm inviting you already to think about all the elements I'm mentioning, how you see them already in life or in games that you're playing, as most of you are gamers. I'm sure you already start to see some connections of how this is being applied in real life. Good. Now, I would like to put this all together. Okay, and this is so Yu-kai Chou is really an impressive person, has done lots of research in that space, big gamer as well, and he has written this amazing book, Actionable Gamification, which I highly recommend. And one of his theses is this octalysis framework, which is somehow trying to put some structure, some frameworks around all the different ways of implementing gamification. Because multidimensional, right? Because we are like really complex specimens, right? Therefore, we also need multiple drivers to trigger specific emotions. And octalysis, because there are 8 dimensions, very simply put. And later on, I will also connect this with the left and right brain and the white hat and the black hat. Okay, but basically, this is helping activity designers, so for games, game designers, for CEOs, for activities at work, for product developers, for products that they're developing, and then to sell ultimately. You can use it in different use cases, but in the end, you always rely on these dimensions, and they can help you ensure you have considered all the aspects that are of relevance. Happy to hear your thoughts if you think something is missing, right? Because I think this is not pure science. It's just here to give some structure. So let me go through all of them, starting with the top. The top is about epic meaning and calling. This is really about the idea that we are pushing you bigger mission to achieve it, and therefore to do something amazing. One example that I could give you, for example, Wikipedia or open source products. These are things that you are not doing because you're earning money, you're not doing because you're getting necessarily recognition, but it's because you value the bigger well-being of, I want people to have the right knowledge. I want people to have access to what I've worked on to trigger and drive innovation. So you want the entire community to benefit. So it's really about, I have a bigger vision to achieve, and I can apply it in multiple aspects. Then we can go to the second one, which is about, so the left one is accomplishment and development. This is internal drive of making progress, right? So, and overcoming challenges. If you make progress without any challenge, it's too easy, so you will not notice it, right? But if you make it a bit hard, so something to overcome that is not so comfortable, when you accomplish it, this feeling is very strong, right? And this is actually the drive that is the closest to all the standard gamification aspects that you know, like earning points, badges, being a leaderboard. If it's too simple, like you just start breathing now and you get a medal, a gold medal, oh my God, you're the best. I mean, you'll be like, cool, but I didn't do much. But if it is like to run 1 mile while you usually don't run, it's a big thing. So earning something, you will be proud of it. So it needs to be the right balance of being achievable, but not too fast. Otherwise, you will not value it. Then we go to the empowerment of creativity and feedback, so the top right one. This is when you are engaged in a creative process where you have to repetitively figure this out and try different combinations to achieve something, right? So this is very strong for very creative people. And this is very powerful because you don't need many things to keep it exciting. For example, you have some Legos to play with, or like you have a painting you can do. And that's very cool for designers because there's not a lot of effort to do to make a path of something. But if you're creative, you're like, okay, let me build a house. Tomorrow, let me build a boat. Let me build a tree. And you can keep going with your creative process. And you don't need so much, but still build an endless feeling of accomplishment. Then there's the one about ownership and possession. So the middle left one, okay, in the dimension. So ownership and possession, as it is already mentioning, this is really about giving you a feeling of owning something and wanting to keep it and not losing it, right? And once you own it, you want to own even more. This is very relatable, for example, to earning points or virtual goods or virtual currencies. When you see things piling up, you're very excited about it and you feel like you cherish it, right? And therefore you want to keep cherishing it further. One example is I'm the social media Be Real, right? You get flames. If every day you post, you get a flame, and then it cumulates. The more you take you post, the more flames you get. If you miss one, you start from scratch. So I have this incentive to keep earning these flames because I don't want to lose them. Or Duolingo is another huge example, the sticks, right?
Mhm.
If you miss one day, you start from scratch. So it actually is so smart because it pushes you. The more you use it, the more you are addicted to it because the more you have to lose. And as you see, what I'm saying right now will connect with other drives. And that's also something. Most of the drives you see, they are not just related to ownership, but they are also related to other drives like loss aversion, etc. Good. Then the next one is about social influence and relatedness. So this is about external dimensions, that you want to feel that you're part of mentorship, accepted, you have some social responses, companionship and competition, etc. This one where products are very excelling at them are social media, right? I mean, if you're on Facebook back then, LinkedIn nowadays, let's make it professional. If you're on LinkedIn, you make a post and you get a like, it makes you feel, oh, someone seems to care about what I'm saying, right? So it brings value because there's a social aspect of it, right? And this is very powerful as well because we are social species, right? So we need to have this connection with some kind of community. And this can be related in many products as well. I think Felix will speak about it later on. Ways, for example, is also the feeling of the social link to people, making you feel not alone, and also wanting to help each other and put each other up, or even incentivizing healthy competition as well. Going then to the scarcity and impatient dimension. So this is more about you don't want to lose something, okay? And especially actually about losing, but actually it's rare and therefore it's precious, right? And therefore you're thinking about it continuously until you have it. If you have it all the time, it will not be so precious anymore because it's totally normal. One example is school holidays, right? You don't have them all the time. Therefore, once you don't, you understand the value and you're looking forward to the next ones or the weekends, right? And this can be applied in many aspects as well. And it's called this appointment dynamics, which is like come back in 2 hours and you will get a reward. Or if you log in at a specific moment in the day, you will receive a specific reward that you only get if you log in at that time. For example, another one is, now on the Netflix shows, you have like one episode every week. So you cannot binge watch over the weekend as you might used to do, but you need to wait. Next Tuesday night, you will get the next episode. And again, this first is very smart because it pushes you to keep paying the subscription, but also it is aspect of think about it, what's going to happen. I don't know yet because I cannot access the thing, right, until I come back at that specific point in time. Facebook was also doing it very well because when they started, it was just for Harvard, and then they opened up for other prestigious schools, and people were almost incentivized to join just because, oh, it was for Harvard before, but now I want to join as well because it's apparently prestigious, right? And it was for very selected people. Then two more. One is unpredictability and curiosity aspect. This is again out wanting to find out what will happen next. If you don't know what's going to happen, your brain keeps engaged and keep thinking about it all the time. This is again very powerful because it's keeping you active, but it can also be used in more challenging aspects such as gambling addictions. For example, you go play something, poker or something, you have no idea what is going to happen when you put the cards on the table, but you win, you gain a lot. If you lose a lot. And that is strong, but if it's applied more addictive aspects of it, it can also be quite harmful as well. And the last one, the bottom one, is the loss and avoidance aspect. So this is really about you really want to avoid to lose something, right? Something negative. happens, right? And on a small scale, it could be something to avoid losing previous work that you have done. And on a larger scale, it could be to avoid admitting that everything you did to this point was useless because you are now quitting, and also opportunities that are fading away. So I believe this is one, for example, that is applied a lot when you pay a membership, for example, to go to the gym, and you don't go to the gym in the end, and then you feel like, I'm not mentioning any names here, Felix, and basically here it's just about somehow, if you don't go while you paid for it, you're like, I'm losing money, right? I'm losing like something I said I would do. So this is something negative happening. So actually, this action is about this drive of how we function, that I don't want this negative aspect to happen. So I will go to the gym, even though I don't want to, right? So again,
avoid loss. Yeah.
Exactly. All of this together makes products very powerful and sustainable, even though most products are not symmetric. So it's not like the same percentage allocated to all of them. Some are skewed to specific, for example, social media platforms are very skewed towards social influence and maybe less about epic meaning. Browsing for hours on TikTok, is it really like an epic meaning of your life? Probably not, right? It's still very powerful. So it's just trying to find which aspects make the most sense for you in your business, in your activity, but still considering all of them. Because if you've put all of your energy on avoidance, it might not be that scalable neither, right? Because you might at some point make the person feel very bad, and they will lose. They will up, right? So this is helpful, I believe, at least for me very much, and this is also how we applied it at Incivio, to remember to think about all of these, and then you can yourself assess, let me apply this accordingly. Going back to the left and right brain, it's also here how the framework has been built. The left is so everything that is extrinsic motivation, maybe something you don't like, but with external factors, you're incentivized to do them. That's what you see here. So about accomplishment, ownership, scarcity. While on the other hand, it's more about intrinsic thing. I care about my social status. I care about creativity, etc. And then white and black hat. White is the positive feelings. It's about the meaning, the accomplishment, the empowerment, makes you feel good. And down in the framework is more the black hat, which is scarce. It's unpredictable. It's avoidance. Again, you're addicted to it, but maybe not necessarily in a good way.
Yeah, maybe here we have a question, Anna, about the. So, does the framework have to be like analyzed with convenient, let's say, with the persona that we have? For example, do we have to do an analysis of the persona first and then build this framework of gamification, or we should test and try and go and?
Perfect question. And actually, it's exactly what I wanted to show in the next slide, which is about how can you apply this now, right? It's not just let me shoot in the dark, put some points to earn, and that's it, right? Because they can try all the combinations in the world, and it might not lead to what you want. And that's why, again, the first step you need to do, whatever it is it for your employees, for your clients, for your in a kindergarten with children, with gamers, right? First question, what do you want to achieve? And it relates to the persona, right? So what do you want to achieve? I want to have my employees mega motivated at work. That's something I want to achieve. Or I want school children to play positively together. Or I want games to be addicted to my game because this is how I'm going to earn points, play with the community, etc. You can have different, and there are so many use cases. And that's the first question you should think about. What do you want to achieve? And then you go looking at the framework. You can Google it, Octalysis framework. It's fully accessible. There are tons of blog posts about it. Then you can go, okay, how can I achieve it? And that's actually we did it also at Incivio. I'll speak about it later. So once you know what you want to achieve, then, okay, let's go one by one. Let's go back to the slide. Okay, I want to achieve motivation, meaning. Okay, yeah, maybe if I motivate my employees about the vision of the company, they will be more excited than just clocking in, right? The side of the empowerment, the social influence, each one you go one by one. Now this is out of scope for me, right? While this is super important, let me put all my energy on it. And every use case will be different, right? And that's very important because you can put whatever drive you want, but if it's not triggered by the right incentive, it's useless. There are many use cases where they try to apply random elements. Cool, let me just add points, and people will be excited. Yeah, but if it's not about points because it's about being healthy or being to play, like nobody cares about the social dimension, so the points don't matter. I don't know, right? There are different use cases you can think of. It will be useless. So first, what do you want to achieve? Then use this as an enabler instead of the other way around. Even though it would be easy to just look at the game-like elements. Yeah, let me try this one. Let me scare them, and then they will be incentivized to do it. Always, what do you want to achieve first? Then you can also think about the quick wins versus long term, right? There's always quick wins are things you can achieve very fast, low hanging fruits, versus then the longer term ones, which you can try to balance, right, to make it to bring the most added value out of it. What I also believe is important is to measure performance, right? I think what you cannot measure, you cannot really assess if it's working or not. So when you also define the drives of what you want to achieve, maybe define 1-2 KPIs, especially at work, so that you can measure it, right? It can be, for example, again, for employees, it can be retention rate, right? Or like doing the extra mile, or for example, for school children, how many creative games are they playing together, right? Are they crying or not, right? You can define your own KPIs and then measure them, right, on a periodic basis. Again, then have a plan, right? Again, I think it's not like if you have never done this before and you put the biggest plan ever on, it's not needed. Start simple. I really believe being simple and being agile is the way of doing things. Therefore, I invite you all to just think about quickly what can you do fast, and then how can you invest in it over time to make it scalable as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
It's not a game. It's not a game at all. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Back to you, Deke.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for these insights. Really, thank you. It was really insightful. Yeah, and maybe here with discussing the real use cases, in fact, or the real world use cases, we will try to make this approach. I mean, we'll see the white hat, the black hat.
انا جيت في وجه بورقيبه واقع قلت له يلعنك يا زمان شفت فيك البهايم على الكنيسه
right away in our panel. So we will try to make this approach, talking about the real world, see the white hat, the black hat. How or what are the most like platforms that are really interesting for you, that you have seen or that you have developed or that you have worked on during these years?
So yeah, I bring you two examples. One of them is the one that is usually we never think that can be gamified, right? So we're talking about financial service, like banks and everything. So these guys are from the old school, so they have problems, right? So exactly. So most of them, for example, in the institution of banking, what they need, they have problems with compliance, right? So everything needs to be on compliance surveillance. So instead, what they start understanding is traditional training, long, tedious, lack of engagement. People are, I don't know, they send PDFs with 100 pages and they expect everyone to read it. If you don't read it, you're seeing videos with 2 hours of duration. Then if you miss the videos, you go to a classroom with a guy speaking for 2 hours or 3, and then they do a coffee break and then 2 hours or 3. So these types of training, for example, for compliance, they are very difficult, right? But they need to be done. So one measure that can help doing this is gamification. So using gamification, you can pass information to the users without them feeling that they are boring or it's too long, it's too difficult to understand, right? So the term, the precise term is progression-based learning. So you give the user several levels, and every time that the user is achieving one level, you unlock the next one. So what we are doing is microdosing, right? So it's micro-learning, the term, that what you are trying to do is to condense, summarize pieces of information that are very important to retain, but you are giving to the user in small doses. This helps the user to keep engaged with you and to keep learning in their own time and pace. Because this is another thing. So there are people that they can be watching a 1 hour movie totally focused. And then, like me, for example, I cannot. So probably I will be there 10 minutes and then I start suffering. So everything after 10 minutes, I will not remember. And this is a problem, I know. So, but if I am a worker of an institution, I would not tell the guys, hey man, change everything because I cannot do this, right? I need to stick with it and I will try my best. So, but as me, it's a lot of people that cannot do this type of training. So, for example, there is a financial institute that I work with. It was an investment firm. They started using gamification to explain cybersecurity. Look, the problem was not the financial part. The guys were doing that okay, right? They know what they are doing. The problem was in the financial investment company, there was a lot of problems with cybersecurity. You know, clicking on emails that you should not, telling people some numbers that should not be told by phone, or sending an email with a password, things like that. So most of these things, they are on your daily basis tasks. So you are doing that without even thinking. But through gamification, they start doing a lot of games with them, a lot of quizzes, showing them that, look, like Anna was saying, and very, very good. So look, you earn X amount of points. You are on the top of the leaderboard. So if I am there and I'm looking, hey, my friend's over there, the guy at the top, I need to be like him. So I will try to make an effort, right? And as it's fun and short, I will give it a shot, you see? So I will try one and another time and another time. And this repetition mode will bring me to the level, sometimes not exactly the same, but to the level of a long-term training session of 4 hours. Of course, it's not taking 4 hours, it will take 1 week, but I'm learning every day. I'm remembering that stuff. So this is a real case, right? I work with. It worked very well. So we reduced a lot of things. We decreased, I believe it was more than 30% in terms of compliance problems. We reduced almost 30% of that because the team were aware of what they can do and what they should not do. So again, with simple gamification, and sometimes we also think that this needs to be a huge software or a very complicated platform. Don't need to, right? We need to keep it simple. And for example, in Incivio, I believe one of our challenges is doing that. So trying to simplify the process of learning for the user when he's in front of it, he will not feel that he's learning and reading. So it's like kind of fun. And this is the part of gamification, right? So with this example, I believe it's one of the best because it's really a hard industry, very difficult to engage with people with more age. So picking up them and putting them in a level of a new era of learning, it's difficult. Okay, so this is one example. The other one that I bring to you guys also is more on the retail side. So talking about onboarding, this is another problem, right? So onboarding is a problem. So the retail, I believe in the last numbers I read, it was 60% of turnover rates. So come on, in the first 90 days, they have 60% of turnover. If you are training the guy in the traditional methods, and you are spending weeks and weeks training the guy, and after 90 days he's going away, so it's money out of the window, right? That you are saying. It's easy, but again, it worked, right? So it works for the last century, so we keep doing, but we need to find some other solutions. So in this part, what we have done and that client was we created a lot of board games that they need to do. Those boarding games was especially with things that was related to the company. So you were doing simple board games that you can do during your lunchtime, and it was a moment of everyone working together. Again, manual, nothing technical over here. Okay, no computers, simple things. But it was a board game where when they were playing the board game, they were learning. They didn't need to pick up cards, move to the next step and the next step. So again, very easy, very traditional, very simple, but keep people engaged. Of course, then after a couple of time, we passed this to a platform of trying to help them to do almost the same thing, but online. And as Anna was explaining also, for example, Duolingo was one of the best things of engagement. We started giving them badges, incentives. So again, it's not because of the points, right? Everyone knows they are not there for earning anything. Although in this particular case, this client was giving a prize. So they publish a prize list, kind of first guy, I don't know, it was a weekend vacation. The second was, I don't know, I think for the kitchen or something. So it was something to demonstrate to people that, okay, you are playing, this is for us, important. If you give higher rank, you'll receive something. And this is, again, emotional relation. People are emotional connected to that. No one was playing because of the kitchen hardware, but everyone was playing because they need to play, because they also understood that if they don't play, this can come up in the big problem to them, because they are missing something. They were not doing customer care properly. They were not helping customers, and this is important. In this customer, what we faced was, for example, on the guys that were doing on the storage part, we have a 50% reduction of problems on packages for orders. Why? Because they were doing that. I don't know. There is an expression that I don't know if everyone knows. I don't want to offend anyone, but it calls monkey training. So it's like when you are seeing other person doing something and you mimic the guy, right? So, but this is normal. Everyone does this. Look at our colleague. If he's doing this, probably is right. Okay? So what we understood in that particular client was they were doing this, but they're doing wrong. So they didn't know that they were doing wrong. So we need to start doing gamification with them to show them probably you need to change. And this change resulted in 50% of problems, reduction of problems. So two takeaways. I believe it's important for everyone that is listening to us. Gamification is not just about fun. It's a strategic tool for driving engagement, retention, and productivity. Okay? So this is not for people having fun. This is with a purpose. And of course, it works best if we can combine this with AI. So now with AI, we can do personalized training. So this is, I believe, it's another level. We are putting this into another level. So now I can have the same content of the company. I can drive questions and specific types of learning through a web platform to different types of person at the same time. So we're learning, but we are receiving two different informations based on the same content, of course. So this calls personalized learning. And this is only possible because of the AI boost that we are having and of platforms, for example, like in CV.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe talking about AI, Felix, we have a question from the audience about the gamification and AI. And it's talking about, can we apply gamification between AI agents? Some sort of a Twitch where you watch supercomputer nailing it against other computers.
Cool. So yes, we can. Yes, we can. And there is a lot of people that are doing, a lot of teams that are doing this type of experience. So doing gamification through computers. Why this is important? Because through this, the agents, they can produce results, and those results can give us data so we can analyze in the future to try to create new games and new gamification process for the users in the industry. What this can bring us also is giving us a speed in terms of reaching out perfect result. So instead of us trying to do this with this team and then wait for 2 months that results, okay, this gamification part, putting an AI in the middle and especially combining the two of them, it can speed up things, right?
Yeah, thank you. I hope it answers our dear audience. With that, we will go to Anna. Maybe we have another real world use case, and I will leave you also another question to answer, Anna. Some
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go with the real world use case, and then.
I mean, in terms of real world use cases, there are multiple to consider, but complementing maybe what Felix said, I think indeed gamification can be very powerful in more standard or boring industries while you still need to go through these. And I believe about education. I think education is one big one. And also when you read the headlines, gamification of education, for example, can be a very strong driver to increase how we nowadays function, right? And to build better knowledge, right? And knowledge gathering. Healthcare can be another one, and banking as well. So I think all the more standard industries need to keep up with progress. And I think one way of doing it is gamification. Felix was mentioning the fact that we might be also nowadays more distracted, right? And maybe the attention span are smaller, right? So maybe having a way to split things up, make them more scarce, can incentivize you further to, in the end, also keep learning, right? Or keep contributing, keep being compliant. So I think this is not a specific use case, but I believe the applicability in more boring industries where it's less exciting to actually be already doing the activity, like a game where it's automatically a fun activity to do, I think has a lot of power here. And if you want, I can give the examples of Incivio. So Incivio is all about engaging team members, right? And nowadays, I mean, engagement of employees is at its 11-year lowest level. People are not excited about work, and especially the newer generation is really there to wanting to have a purpose when they go to work, which I think is wonderful. You need a purpose, right? Just getting there to get a salary can be limiting, right? Because it might not be enough to fulfill your life. So the fact that it's slow, there is something to improve, and engagement is not an easy game. And many questions I get is, what is engagement, right? What does it really mean? Well, what we're trying to do is to think about which gamification aspects can you implement to achieve that engagement, meaning that motivation to do something even when there's no one watching, where there is like the completion is already achieved and you're still doing the extra mile. For me, this is somehow engagement, right? Doing it really full of your energy and passion. And gamification can help here. And so when we built Incivio, which is now a platform where you can learn different skills, we were going through these dimensions and looking, okay, the meaning, can we implement the meaning? The social dimension. So we thought, yeah, maybe if, as Felix mentioned, you can do what your team members or your colleagues are learning, can be positive pressure to keep learning. So if I see that daycare has done 5 skills this morning, and I've been doing nothing except enjoying a good coffee and maybe reading something, I might feel like incentivized, let me also learn and also earn some badges like Decker did, and maybe even beat him in the leaderboard, right? So different aspects of that we're trying to implement. Not all are working, obviously, because sometimes we might have tried to implement one just for the sake of implementing it. So then we pivoted, we changed, okay, maybe let's use another one. And then we can easily measure also what is working. And going back to what Felix is saying and the power of AI, the more data you have, the more you can predict this drive work for that persona, for that objective, right? And then you can keep fine-tuning it as over time. Also, again, I'm passionate about Duolingo. I think it's working really well. I think they nailed it. But I think the biggest drive they managed to achieve, and not right away, was the strikes. So they were trying many things like points you earn, etc. But nothing was powerful as the strikes. You know, like the flames you earn, the more you do, because it combines so many dimensions. It combines loss aversion. It combines also the social dimension because you can see how many strikes someone else has. It combines ownership. It combines maybe not epic meaning, to be honest, but it combines many of these. And so I think if you have a drive that is combining many, a feature that is combining many drives, I think this is very, very powerful. I think this relates also to one of the questions, right, Decker?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's about the question was asked about the gamification and applying it to the financial industry and banking is so boring, etc. So thank you, Anna. Felix, also, I wanted to ask you, in fact, about the power of gamification in construction of applications. And you have the example of Waze, in fact, who were like constructing from scratch the application, the app, using gamification. Can you tell us more about this?
Yes, so Waze is a fantastic example of how gamification can be applied worldwide. And why is that? Because Waze, when they started, they realized a problem. So traditional navigation, although already exists, it relies on fixed data. So fixed data sources, static data, right? And they have another problem. They wanted to buy maps, but the maps are very expensive. So what they start doing is they start a dynamic incentivized system to engage users to use the app. And by using the app, the users are giving information to the central code about the street and the road and the traffic and the directions. So suddenly, Waze starts to be an important data source of how traffic is going on. And for that data source to be reliable, people need to use the app. So you cannot only have the app installed on your phone, you need to be using it. So how can we engage people to using the app? So they started creating a lot of strategies. One of them, point system, the basic one. So every time that you enter the app, you earn points. Every time that you assist the app telling, hey, too much traffic over here, this is a roadblock over here, you gain points. Then they move to avatars and badges. So suddenly you start seeing other Wazers on the platform. So you can see that you are not alone. And looking at their avatars, you can see if they are in the highest rank than you. So, hey, how can I earn a sword in the avatar? I need to be more proactive with the app. So on the next day, I will use the app again. And the next day, again, and the next day, again. Then they start to put people collaborating, allowing users to edit maps. So people can go there and say, this road changed the direction. Now it's not on this sense. This direction is on the opposite direction. So with this option, what they were doing is they were giving the ability to users to contribute to the app in a seamless way, because everyone wants what? To arrive faster to the other part, right? So you go to your destiny and you want to arrive faster. So if everyone is doing contributes to that, explaining this is a roadblock, this is a police car, this is an accident, this is traffic, you know that you are going to be faster. So what this came out was a real-time social engagement. So sometimes I say that Waze is not a maps. This is a social platform, right? It's the first time that you create a social platform for drivers. And you know what? How this process is helping them to earn money. If people are a lot of time using their app because they are contributing, they are engaging and everything, now they started to insert ads of people that want to so telling you nearby you there is a coffee with logo, near you there is a restaurant with the logo. So and this ads, this media, it increased the budget of Waze dramatically because everyone wants to be with their brand where the user is. So if you are passing by my restaurant, why not? You can see that there is a restaurant 500 meters from now. Okay, so this is again for me one of the extreme example of how gamification in the application world, without being a game, again, without being a game and without people learning anything, they are just engaging with each other. And now suddenly they become one of the biggest in the market.
Awesome, awesome. It seems like it's the Octalysis framework squared. I mean, it's so powerful. Yeah. Yep. I think we are on time, and hopefully this time we made it, answering the questions one by one during the webinar. Thank you.
I answered.
Thank you,
I think there were there were 2 other questions. I already answered them offline so that we could tackle everything. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to us as well. Right? We're here to.
Absolutely.
I think we have a slide with quickly our contact details. Let me share it so you can either scan our QR code or
I've shared it. So
connect on LinkedIn or take our email address.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So thank you, audience, for joining us, and stay tuned for the next webinar, which will be in 2 weeks. Well, I will not give a spoiler alert, but stay tuned on our NCVO LinkedIn page. Mo is going to take care of you. Thank you, guys. See you next time.
Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.